We are live.
I
Hi,
think we're going to be live. Hi, guys.
hi,
Cheryl,
Sabina.
and welcome to hashtag no filters. So, if you've not joined us before, one, thanks for coming along so much now and maybe on the replay. And if you have, then it's great to have you along again. We started these chats during lockdown. I don't remember when, April, something like that. And we were having these like such cool conversations, just really sharing where we were at, sharing tips and tools for dealing with the crazy that was going on in the world, but also inside of us in terms of how we felt and what we thought. And so we started thinking, why don't we share these online? So that's how it began.
Yeah, that's how we are, huh? We're just constantly working on ourselves, and this is what came up. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think I think you've got the cat there. It's like
yes,
the
I do.
evil
You can see it.
Mr. Bond.
She's on my lap. Body cat.
Pretty
Oh.
cat. Okay, guys, let's get into it because I think there's some cool stuff. We've not done a show or a conversation for about a month. So we had a quick conversation the other day, and I think there's two things we'd really love to bring today. We normally don't kind of pre-plan it, so we haven't gone into the detail. However, Sabina was sharing some stuff about what she's been doing, and I've kind of had an awareness of stuff I've been exploring. So the two things: preparing for the future and self-care.
I'm so into self care right now, but can we start maybe with about the future? It kind of links to the self care.
Preparing for the future.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
get into your world a lot, hasn't it? So
Yes.
tell us
So we
not
could,
in the world.
yeah. So we can look at that in many ways. People can think about that in terms of physical, what they've got in their houses, how they're doing with the finances, what they're doing with their work. There's that bit, but really, what I think would be really cool for us to bring is around that emotional and mental well-being. Because depending where you are in the world, let's say here in the UK, particularly in the south of England, which is where we both are, we're generally okay. We've got food supply. Most of us are working from home. We might have kids at home, partially with homeschooling. But our mental and emotional bit is the bit that's been churning out for many people over the 6 months. Now, some are just totally loving the lockdown and having no issues whatsoever. Others have gone the other extreme and literally suicide. And there's those that are sort of in the midst of all that are struggling with being around people that are not necessarily used to being around all the time, not necessarily used to being in the house all the time or a lot of the time. And I mean, this is an interesting perspective. I'm a bit of a kind of geek. I can sort of dive quite deep into seeing what's going on with it politically, financially. And I've always had an ability to see beyond what people are telling us. So people present a certain front, and I've always had the ability to see the sort of truth of what's going on since I was a little kid. And what I've basically learned is that often what people are saying, turn it 180 degrees, that's what's really going on. So I kind of perceive there's going to be lots of announcements, sharing of information in terms of things that have been potentially kept in the dark and away from us. Some of it's possibly quite shocking. I don't think it's all going to come out because I think it would be too shocking for maybe all of society to hear it. Some of it will be presented as legal cases. Some will be presented as people's misbehaviour. Some will be presented with people that we know well suddenly being ill and dying off. It's going to affect our political, our financial systems, and other things. Now, I'm not going to say what these things are because, hey, maybe that's part of the adventure of seeing what's going to unfold.
Oh my god!
But the thing is,
it's like an episode of Black Mirror.
yeah, Black Mirror, yeah. And so I'm not going to talk politics or anything like that. But what I'm really going to focus on is that whatever happens, whether you love it or decide that it's so intense you don't want to look at it, or feel out of control that you don't have a choice, if you can start to become aware of your emotional and mental well-being, which is basically how we see the world and how we feel about it, then you'll be able to navigate whatever unfolds and actually create something that's really cool for yourself. I would like to offer. And we're talking over weeks, months, possibly years here. But there's going to be stuff coming out in the next few weeks, next few months that will start to shape people's world maybe a bit more. I'm going to suggest. And if I'm totally off kilter here, fantastic. But it's going to go a certain route, and people are going to like it or they're not. There's not going to be much in between. So how can we prepare ourselves, and how can we change how we see things?
Marlene,
Hi,
just
Marlene.
Marlene, greetings.
Thanks for
Yeah,
joining us, darling.
I've been,
Sabina,
I've been going in.
self-care.
Yes. So I have been looking into that stuff as well, and like I'm super sensitive as well, and like totally stresses me out, right? And like I'm an empath as well, so I can really feel into like all the what's going on, even picking up on other people's stuff. And
Yes.
so I have been focused because of this. I'm trying to step away from the news a little bit, which is okay as well. I'm still trying to keep in the loop, but I'm keeping it to the minimum, and that's my self-care. And I'm trying
Right.
to, because that's what helps me cope and keep balance. And then, when I just expose myself a little by little, okay, I learn a little bit more. And then self-care, just get myself back into balance. If I if I get too stressed out or upset, and I'm doing something nice for myself every day. That's my rule. Every single day, at least an hour, not 5 minutes, an hour of something.
So, do you want to share a little bit of some of the things you've chosen to do for yourself? And yeah, it
Yeah.
might be quite give some people some ideas. And I know we've all got different lifestyles, but here's some ideas, possibly.
Well, actually, today I've had like more than an hour. I went to my friend gifted me access bars section in the morning, which was quite lovely, and
Which is a hands-on body process, by the way, guys. It's a hands-on body process. It changes how you
energy
feel
therapy.
and think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. And then so I was already blissed out, and then I went to have a massage. Yes.
So you had quite.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, right now, I'm so chill. Like, I'm just about to fall asleep here. I'm like, am I even gonna like have the energy to go live? I'm like, yeah, let's just
You
chill.
had like what we call spa day experience.
Pretty much, yeah. That's why I'm like, my hair is still wet. Sorry, I had to de-oil myself.
So that's obviously that's not necessarily everybody's going to be everybody's experience, because obviously some people could be working, at their desk for hours on end,
Yes, of course.
dialing in at work or in a building somewhere. But I think what I heard you say was actually starting to take time each day.
Yes, I call it like a little snacking, like self-care snacking. If you don't have an hour a day, that's cool. Wake up, do 5 minutes of breathing, or just really like wake up a little bit early if you have kids and stuff, and like house goes mad. Wake up to 5 minutes earlier and enjoy your cup of coffee in peace and
Yeah,
silence.
in peace.
Even
Yeah,
that, even
yeah,
that, start the day. Not straight away jump into your phone and look at messages. No, like make a cup of
yeah.
coffee, down, and really, really enjoy it. It's such a simple thing, and anybody can do that. Or tea, if that's your poison. I love coffee, so
Yeah,
the smell of
yeah.
coffee, when you really take the time, like, oh, I can
And
smell it
how many
now.
people, right? Yeah, how many people kind of rush through whether it's their breakfast or their meals, or, like you say, they're on a device, they're thinking about where they need to be, they're not present with what they're doing in that moment, which is, if you're going to have breakfast, take just literally when you bite into that, whatever it is, piece of toast, bowl of fruit, whatever it is you do, slug of coffee, just really taste it. And it may seem like really simple, but mostly people are spending time in their past or in their future.
Yes,
Not being
and or
here.
multitasking, going and bite toast while you're preparing, a meal for the kids or whatever, whatever your routine is. Like, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, starting to just take that time.
Be more mindful. And
Yeah.
when for example, like I do quite a lot of admin lately. I've been good at my marketing and all that. Eaten in a mindful way, Marlene said, yes.
Thank you,
Yes,
Marlene. Yes,
thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take time, right? So I've
Yeah.
been spending a lot of time on a computer, and that, of course, like staring at a screen for too long is never a good thing. So I try to like take breaks at least every hour, or if not more often. Maybe if you tend to like get really fixated on what you do, put an alarm on your phone. I don't know. Every
Yeah,
half
those
hour,
moments, right?
just to have a little breath. It can be just like a simple stretch while you're on the chair. Bend one way, then the other, have a little twist, and then back in. Take a deep
Hi,
breath.
Alan. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, you're right. Just those little things, right? Just literally. I mean, like you say, just a little stretch, just to, or take a few. Like we've got a window behind me, there's a lot of light. Take 30 seconds. I'd say take 3 minutes, but even 30 seconds to turn around, look out the window. It changes the focal vision, the focal length of your eyes. Staring at a screen which is giving off a certain amount of light can be really hard on our eyes. So taking that time to readjust your focal length and taking some sunlight. You know, I'm lucky, I've got a lovely balcony. So even though it's raining today, my balcony's covered as it happens, and I can just go out there and just like breathe in some air. Open the back door, put your head out.
No, but I do actually sometimes. I take my shoes off and and socks off everything, and just go walk out on the grass and just stand there for a moment.
If you've not met Sabina before, she's a yoga teacher, so she's kind of like connected to the earth, very much about that.
Hippie as fuck. I'm like bare feet and all, you know, connect with the earth.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like connected to nature, but I'm also very much a whole corporate background, and yeah, very much kind of focused and organized. And then I've learned to soften and connect to different aspects of how I tick, which has been an ongoing journey. So we come from two very different backgrounds, which is really cool. It's what makes it kind of fun.
Yeah, different things into it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so taking those times, those moments throughout the day, right? And also, I'm going to be in. Go on, please.
A little bit like a Dr. Evil look.
Oh, stroking the cat. Yes. Yeah.
I just couldn't help myself. Go for it. Go.
No, totally. I saw that earlier. It was fantastic. And another thing I'd want to bring. So what we do in this chat, we kind of just free flow it rather than making it a formal show. But we called it a show just for ease. And but we can find on both of our pages. So Sabina's is True Drew Yoga, which is where this stream's from. Mine's Joyful Bodies Official, and you'll find previous shows. You'll find sort of food for thought, insights, tips, ideas. Obviously, Sabina runs yoga classes and teaches one-on-one as well as stuff for corporates. I happen to do a number of things, but one of them is I coach and teach people cool skills around basically changing what's going on in their workplace, in their lives outside of work, their relationships. So they've basically got a toolkit to navigate whatever comes up. So that's kind of where we've come from, and that's why we kind of bring these different perspectives to what's going on here. And one of them, I did this really cool shoot for a clothing brand about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and called Kind Company. Kind Company, and company is with a K, and it's all one word. And this top's one of their tops. It says "Just Be You." And what I loved about, thank you. Yeah, it's so cute. And what I wanted to bring there is that we're all conditioned and programmed to behave in certain ways. Now,
hi, Renata.
Hi. Some of you may believe that, some of you may disagree with that, some of you may be, what do you mean? Well, what I mean is that, you know, there are set behavior, there's set ways we're expected to behave in society. Like at the moment, people are expecting to be told to wear masks and social distance, and you might say that's a physical thing, but there's also a belief about what we might get from somebody. You know, what happens if we don't follow that? So a lot of us are driven by these patterns of behaving, patterns of wanting to fit in, patterns of believing what we hear and not even questioning. And so what I've become aware of as I see lockdown around the world, also these things I've been exploring and investigating for, I guess, a lot of my life, but particularly the last few months, there are a lot of alternative perspectives that aren't necessarily being represented in mainstream media. Now, it's not about one being right and one being wrong, but it's starting to get curious and starting to question, I'm being told something. Like if you ever thought about somebody, you thought you knew who they were, and then they did something quite different, and you were like, you just didn't expect that to come from them. So you had one lens of what you thought they were, and then they acted in a way that was totally, quote, quote, out of character, or in a way you hadn't imagined. Or you had a lover, partner, you saw them in one way, and then the relationship changed, and then they started to behave in a way that you had never seen before. That's all about our lens.
So how do you deal with it? Can you talk about it a little bit more? So that happens, and it's quite shocking, isn't it? Because like when we are used to something, and then it kind of like shakes your world up a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So that's the thing. We get fixed, and we've decided to make ourselves feel safe, and it's a part of our nervous system and our a way of fitting in as social mammals. So there's layers to this. But our body's always trying to sense: are we fitting in? Are we in danger, or are we in a sense of safety? And so, to make that work easily, we start to have these fixed ideas about what we take notice of, what we don't, and we make assumptions all the time. So one of the things that we can do is start to look at the world from what we call, and there's a tool that from some of the stuff we both played with, which is kind of like interesting point of view. Now, I'm not really going to go into the tool in a big way, but I will just use it a little bit. And so it's from the perspective of like, well, we assume that something's right. So, oh, everybody should be wearing masks. That's definitely the truth. We could kind of go to ourselves, that's interesting. Interesting that we should be. Interesting that the government tells us that we'll die if we don't, or we'll pass something on. Interesting that I think that's true. It could be interesting that I don't agree with it, that I think it's a load of baloney. Interesting that I want to choose for me, don't tell me what to do. Because what we have to do is like, we strongly agree or we strongly resist. Either way, you're being pulled back and forth. There is no freedom. Right? Look, that's like strongly agree as in holding on tight, strongly disagree, holding on tight, two fists. There's no space to move or grab hold of something else or to explore something else, right? Like the classic one about a monkey. They kept monkeys in the jungle by putting something they like in a jar, and the monkey goes in with his hand to grab whatever it was, the food in the jar, creates a fist, of course. I've gone off screen. Creates a fist and can't get it out of the jar. All they did, if they just let go, open their hand, they'd get their hand out. So the interesting point of view, the interesting, like, just catch yourself. You could be sitting here right now going, well, I don't agree with what they're saying. And just notice how that feels in your body, how much you kind of armor up to that, how much you want to turn away. Or conversely, how much you might agree, in which case you're like, yeah, I'm really interested, I'm really open to it. Either is basically holding on versus it just being, interesting what Cheryl's saying right now. It's almost like stepping back. Taking a step 12 foot back. You see, in a room when you're right up against something, like if you look at your phone, you're right up against it, all you see is your phone screen. But if you suddenly take your eyes off and step back 5 foot from your phone and look, suddenly you can see so much more in the room you're in. That's the kind of like the interesting point of view. That's so interesting. Like, if I was really curious, what might I hear? Would it reduce my stress?
Right.
Say that again, darling.
What other things might I be open to and see, right? Instead of having this really narrow mind, narrow view of things.
Yes. And does it reduce my stress? Because a lot of our stress, our anxiety, our worry comes from having a fixed idea about what something should or shouldn't be. When I hear people talking about a particular politician and saying they hate this person, I mean, hate, to me, that word, incredibly emotive, but basically saying, has an energy of wanting to destroy, to annihilate. Now, maybe that's my interesting perspective. For me, that has that type of intensity. Versus we often say we love somebody, it means we're open, we want to connect with them, we're willing to do things and contribute. Hate's like, no, I don't want you in my life or in the world. Really?
Strong word, hate, isn't it?
But love's a strong word as well. So it's just that, what if it's not hate and love? What if it's like, wow, interesting that I react to that person? Because if we're reacting, there is no freedom. Now I'm about freedom. It's my thing since I was a kid. And there's a whole backstory on that. Freedom not to be at the effect, freedom to be able to choose, freedom to allow others to choose. Can you just imagine when you take your hands off trying to control others, which is what most people are doing in their relationships with their colleagues, with their lovers, with their kids? There is no freedom. You're tangled up with all these people, right? The news, the finances.
When you love somebody, you're kind of attached to them, right? Well,
yeah,
normal, like love, which we mostly know. Not the true love. When you truly love somebody, I guess you don't have any attachment to them.
Yeah, I mean, we're skipping on, touching across lots of different subjects, right? So there's lots of deep dives we could do here. Love has been set up to be more about you complete me, you owe me happiness, you give me the things that I'm not able to give myself. Controversial it may be, I'm saying that, but if we're willing to look at how we set up love generally in society, that's what most of it is. Because if somebody doesn't do something we want, oh, they don't love me, or I'm out of love with them. So there is an attachment about them delivering. And it doesn't mean we can't have choice about what we want and who we'd like to be around. But mostly we're trying to do it by pulling on people's strings as opposed to be able to go, wow, they're choosing that. Oh, I might like have a preference for something. But can I easily have a preference and then choose that preference, but not make them wrong?
Yeah.
Not feel that they're making me feel something. Because hey, guess what? The reason that people have different viewpoints is because they've decided their way is the right way or whatever. Otherwise, we'd all think exactly the same and feel
Well,
exactly the same.
I was actually thinking about it the other day. We have like so many set of rules, don't we, by what we live by. And if somebody does something completely different, like from somebody from other cultures, for example, then we're like,
Yep.
no, I don't agree with it. We react to it, right? Because that's like
Yeah,
that's not right in our world, kind of thing.
absolutely.
Who made these rules? You made those rules. Like the other person has another set of rules, and that's
Yeah, and we get conditioned early on in parenting and
yeah.
school, and all of our cultures we all get conditioned. That's has been part of the game, if you like, of society. And hey, that may well start to unravel a bit more as we go forward. However, that's what we've all grown up with to this point, and then we get a choice, or maybe a midlife crisis, or something happens that's shocking. Somebody dies, somebody loses a job, somebody that wakes us up, makes us go, "Whoa, wait a minute, is this true? Is this what I want? Is this?" And I think we're all going to be getting more of a wake up call over the next few months, as we have had
I think
during the lockdown.
I have been getting wake up calls like all this lockdown.
Absolutely, absolutely. Me too. Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Absolutely. And
it's getting intense.
yeah. But for many people, they're busy with the day life and adapting to all the changes that lockdown has created. So they may not have time and or be making the space to go, oh my God, how am I feeling about this? And just sort of firefighting. And you and I are very much into the self-exploration and the what's going on with me? Why am I behaving this way? Because that's just part of our journeys or what we've chosen. But not everybody's going to be doing that.
That's it, like I don't want to suffer, and I want to help other people as well to realize that like there is a better way, isn't it? And it's just by self-inquiry and awareness.
Yeah, a different way, even. I mean, because again, that kind of we live in a society or reality which says good and bad, right and wrong, better, worse, and all our language is really polarizing.
Yeah,
It's
true.
fascinating. We start to listen and watch. Read the paper, for example. I'll read Google headlines, different news articles, or I'll read the Telegraph that we happen to receive, and I'll look at all the headlines, and it's all extreme, trying to pull us into an extreme of emotion. Most of it fear-based, which, by the way, if you're not aware, so your basic primal survival mechanism is your fight, flight, freeze, fawn, which is a part of your nervous system, and it's really driven by the reptilian part of your brain, which is right at the way back. Are you going to live? You're going to die. Well, most of us aren't in a life or death, physically life or death situation. But once we go into that space, we no longer have access to the part here, which is your prefrontal cortex, which is the bit that enables you to be logical, to really see different possibilities and options, to be creative. So you have reptilian, you have the emotional center, which is the sense of how we give meaning to the world, and then you have the frontal cortex. Now, the reptilian and this lovely emotional bit, the same as monkeys, or lizards and monkeys, and it's only this little few percent here at the front, there's less than 1% difference, that gives us that ability to create our societies in the way we have. But once we go into fight, flight, as in fear, which is what most of societies push us towards fear all the time, feeling like we don't have choice or out of control, or that we have to fight something to have an opinion, we go here. So we don't have access to really analyze. Yeah, it shuts down. and we're running on cortisol and adrenaline.
Which
Has
lowers
huge
your
impacts on your
immune
body,
system, by the way.
lowers your immune system massively, massively. And so
So the
if you
best thing
start
they
to
do, right, like now to strengthen your immune system is to reduce your stress, reduce your fear. Me time.
me
Self-care.
time, self-care, me time, taking a break from the screen, taking a break from the addictive aspect of looking at a screen, because screens are very addictive. That constant instant gratification of somebody like me, is somebody sending a message. We've all been taught to look outside ourselves for meaning. When a baby comes to the world, it doesn't look outside itself for any sense of meaning. It lays there, it expects to receive everything. It draws all the attention to it.
I like that.
Draws all the attention to it. Everybody goes to it. It doesn't, and if it wants you, it lets you know. It screams, cries, makes a noise, but it pulls you in. Even if you're not remotely paternal or maternal, it's very hard not to put your attention on a baby when there's one in your vicinity, or toddler. They're curious, they explore, they question. And what do? We kind of say start to mold them to stop doing that. But if you just watch their behavior, they don't take anything at face value. So what if you stop taking things at face value, including what we're sharing, right? Just start to go, I wonder if what I'm hearing or what I'm being told or what I'm thinking, what if I did start to see it more from that's interesting. Would that give me more breathing space? Would it start to help me take off the edge of things?
Reduce the cortisol.
Would it reduce the cortisol? My battery's just flashed up. I thought I'd turned it on. Let me just flick my switch.
In the meanwhile,
They are evil stroking. Yeah. So we don't try to take us. I mean, it sounds like we're going to be serious, but a lot of the time we're very, I guess, politically incorrect and not serious at all. I'm a bit like today. I'm kind of slightly on more of a slightly serious
on a
mode.
mission, right? Yeah.
It's like on a mission.
Yeah. Bring it.
Just
Sorry,
be you.
I had like really mellow day. So I'm like
completely different energies, which is great. It's great. But that's the thing, isn't it? This just shows how, there's all these different perspectives. So it's not Cheryl's right, Sabrina's right, or wrong, or you're right or wrong. Just if you're able to literally step back, if you've ever seen a painting on the wall, you put a picture up, if you're right up against it, it might look a bit wonky, or it might look okay, but you're not quite sure. If you step back to the other side of the room, you can totally tell if it's wonky or not. And you step even further back, you start to see more of your space. So how close are you to things?
All hooks.
Remove all the hooks. Yeah. Yeah. Think so. Yeah. And it's a day-by-day process. And Sabrina does her version of it. I do my version with coaching and teaching cool stuff. And it's not even about us, but we're just different ways.
Share what your coping mechanism is, what your self-care is on a daily basis.
Oh, thank you, darling. Good question. So a combination of things. I love going out and getting fresh air. So where I happen to live has got some beautiful green around me. So I make sure I take my little body for a walk pretty much every day. The last few days I haven't really been into it, which is quite interesting. So it's not about having a pattern, a fixed thing. It's about actually starting to tune into yourself. So I've been wanting to be quite snuggly and be like quite a homebody, like not really wanting to go out. Like, okay.
The change of weather, isn't it?
Change of weather. Well, I used to be out in the rain all the time. Raincoat, umbrella, I didn't care. So it's really interesting to see that right now my body, and guys, you might think, oh, your body's just, you are your body. Your kind of body has its own likes, dislikes from your personality. And we often override it, what we put in it, how long we stay up, what the people we hang out with. But you can tell in your body whether something works for it or not. So right now she's kind of wanting to just chill out and be a bit more at home.
It's funny.
But yeah, I mean,
that as well. Actually, at the moment, I used to be like, I would make sure that I'm out in nature every day, and now I'm like, let's be at home by the heater and snuggle up.
Yeah. So if we don't have the right or wrong, we're not trying to get the formula. For example, with like health, fitness, moving the body. I've gone through so many different things, and as I've softened and become kinder to myself, enabled people to contribute to me, which is a whole huge area around self-care, then others start to do things for you, help you out, letting things, for example, classic thing, if people are parents, anybody that's listening, they put so much of their energy into their children and then feel, and maybe their partner, and then feel kind of irritated, resentful, stressed out because they're constantly gifting to others. What would happen if we don't make somebody sandwich? What would happen if we don't pick up their laundry, particularly if they've got kids? What would happen if we say to them, get yourself something out the cupboard? It might be a bit messy initially, but we start to take that, start to just, or we don't, I don't know, do the ironing. We leave 3 tops and we don't do it. I'm just doing everyday practical things here. Yeah. When you start to see how much of a control freak you are, because most of us are.
We are all control.
But what makes me feel good?
Okay? I'm all right with my.
We are all control freaks. We are all control freaks. But I've learned to mellow mine right back because, I love my home feeling like really lush. But I've learned that I can do less housework and still feel lush, because actually part of it was a distraction technique. Or I've started to ask my partner to do things more and more and know that he has a different way of doing it, and learning to let him do it his way, letting him learn a new way, seeing where I'm triggered by that, so that if I can unhook myself from that emotional need to be in charge of it or to have it done a certain way, I get more freedom, I get more sense of ease, sense of peace. And that's in your immediate environment. So you scale it up to the world, outside world, politically and financially. And if you're still hooked into that and feeling like you have no choice but to react in a certain way, life might start getting really, really tough going forward. If it hasn't already been that way.
Already, that's the thing, isn't it? Because I was just thinking as well, like we've got the tools, right? Like even though like it's been tough for us as well, and we've got all the tools we can think of to cope with everything, but lots of people, they don't even know how to breathe properly. How many people are just like breathing shallowly, and then when you start breathing into the belly, in the deep yogic breath, for example, it's a real problem because the muscles are not developed, and when we breathe shallowly, when we breathe deeply, it slows down the nervous system, calms it down, and if you breathe shallow all the time, you add to the stress. It's such a simple thing.
Can you take us through something there, just a little exercise to start to help people open up? Can we do some?
Yeah.
We think we breathe, guys, but we really don't. Sabina's on something there.
Super simple, not even like, the deep yogic breath. It's like breathing in 4 stages, but even if you just like close your eyes, tall spine as well, just sit tall spine, hand on the belly, and just don't control the breath at all. Just observe the breath as it naturally flows in and out. Where does it go into your body? Just simply observe. And then we're going to try to control the breath. We're going to direct it into the belly. So place the hand under the lower belly. And just feel the lower belly inflating with the in-breath. And then pull it back toward the spine on the out-breath. Just do these few deep breaths in and out. And also when I say deep breath, it's not like all the way to the top of your lungs, but just a slow, deeper breath. Gentle, deeper breath. Two more. And then just open your eyes and just see how you feel, if it changed. And it was just simple, few breaths into the belly, and they can make a whole difference in your world. If you're getting irritated by something at work or something getting really stressful, the best thing you can do rather than react to it straight away, okay, I'm going to step away from the situation. It takes 2 minutes. Hand on the belly, deep breath in, deep, slow breath in, slow breath out. And like within a few breaths, it's going to make a huge difference. And then when you come back to the situation, you will deal with it in a whole different way.
Yeah, I can feel my world is calmer.
Oh,
I feel very centered.
Yeah. And that's just
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah.
It's like, honestly, breath is so powerful.
Yeah.
You
Like
can
say,
get my own pranayama, some yogic pranayama, the breathing exercises. There's different ones for different things in yoga. You can get seriously high on it.
but it's really about the simplicity, right? I mean, that's the thing about what's available, instantly available. Yeah, like you say, a lot of people also breathe through their mouths. Very common because for many people they're congested in the sinuses and the nose, and a lot of that, from my own exploration and experience and many other people's, a lot of what we eat, drink, smoke, whatever, is very congesting for our bodies. Even a lot of things that we call healthy. Just go from the simple aspect of a piece of juicy fruit like a grape, mushes up very quickly into nothing. But a piece of meat doesn't do the same, right? You can't just rub it like that and have it disappear. Or grains, or bread, or even things like cabbage or whatever. They don't just break down very easily in your hand like some grapes would. So it's the same thing in the body, and a lot of it leaves residue. I'm not making it right or wrong. It's just what I know, what many other people are experiencing and have been researching and experimenting with for many years. And so it congests the body. And so for a lot of people, it's very hard to breathe through the nose. So when we breathe through the mouth, that actually is a fight-flight mechanism. Because when you're being chased, you try and gulp air in through the mouth.
Yeah. Plus,
Right?
it's
That's the
terrible for your
fight-flight
teeth.
thing.
It's terrible for
Sorry,
your
darling?
teeth as well. Your mouth. It's really bad for your teeth,
Yeah.
for your gums and everything. To
Yeah.
breathe through your teeth,
I'll come back
through
to
your
that.
mouth.
Yeah, there's no filtering through the nose, nasal hairs, all of those things. So we could go into lots of detail for all these things, but just to give you awareness, start to notice if you're breathing through your mouth. And just if you close your mouth and naturally breathe through your nose, notice how easy that is or not. You might feel like it's choking. It just shows where there's congestion, and it can be mental congestion, busyness. It can be emotional congestion, things you've not looked at, wanted to ignore. It can be food, and it can be technology. There's lots of levels of congestion. Not right or wrong, but just becoming aware. It's the first bit.
It's being aware as well what works for you, because of course we are all so different, right? So what works for me doesn't necessarily need to work for you. So it's about trying different things and seeing what works for you. Food-wise as well, that can be exercise-wise, it can be what calms you
Absolutely,
down.
so many things. Not good, bad, not right, wrong. Yeah, and
Different
also
areas.
that's it, and it's an ongoing exploration, and so there's scales. It's like if you do something and you feel like, oh, there's more space, and it might be a little tight in the beginning. You've ever stretched, you can feel a little bit tight, but after a few minutes, that muscle starts to relax. It's the same thing when you start to explore a new area. It might feel a bit weird at first, but after you've done it for a few minutes, you've done it for a few days, back to back, or over a few weeks, you might start to realize actually there's a little bit less in your world, a little bit calmer.
That's like that as well with the breath, because like if you were used to just doing the shallow breath into your lungs, right? All the diaphragm is not developed, the muscles in the diaphragm. So if when you first start to try breathe into your belly, it will feel really weird, like really weird, because it's like a habit which you've developed in your body. So you can retrain the body. If you stick with it, if you practice, and all of a sudden you will be naturally breathing in, even without having to think about it, without having to control the breath into the belly. You will naturally breathe into the belly. See how babies are breathing?
Absolutely.
Watch babies. Babies breathe.
Yeah, babies. Yeah, their stomachs come out and they go in. And that's another thing, particularly ladies. I know there's men as well, but ladies, we have all been conditioned to hold our tummies in, make ourselves look slim. Total conditioning. The whole thing around femininity, beauty, it's a whole conversation. And there's some bits of that on my Joyful Bodies official page around the whole body thing. And yeah, because a joyful body is actually you as a joyful being. you know, it's not just literally the body. But how many of us have learned to hold our stomachs in? You cannot do deep breathing holding your tummy in.
Yeah. That
Gotta
was
let it
not.
out, ladies. Let it totally relax.
Let it all hang out.
Yeah. And even if you do it in the privacy of your own home, sitting at the desk, you know, and it's just, you start to practice it and you let the belly out, and then you look down and you go, oh my God, just go, ignore that. You've been taught that's wrong. A baby doesn't look at itself and go, oh my God, I'm fat. Look at me. I've got chubby arms and chubby legs and a chubby mouth. A baby never, or maybe it does, but they're generally laughing and smiling. So I'm guessing they're not doing that. They're not beating themselves up. I'm going to guess.
And how cute are they, right? Like all the squishy bits. You know, I like babies with really fat thighs. You can like really squish them, like they're squishy and cute.
Yeah, we don't, you know, anybody, if somebody said to a baby, oh my God, you're so fat, we'd be done for abuse. And maybe a lot of parents who do say that to them, but that would be, it's abuse, you know, it's the kind of thing you could, it's mental, emotional abuse. You could be taken away from, your child could be taken away from its parents for that type of physical or verbal abuse in that case, sorry.
Why do we do ourselves, right?
Yeah, because we've been taught to look outside ourselves and there's a certain image that this is, I mean, I do commercial acting and modeling, which means I appear in advertising material. And I do all sorts, from being a creative to being somebody who might be doing some fitness stuff, to doing something that's technical, to doing something lifestyle. So I'm looked at, and you could say assessed, judged a lot. And I would say I look like my images, I look like my footage. But there's a lot of material out there in the media, in the mainstream, in the advertising world, where it has been hacked to death. It's been touched up, particularly when it's conventional modeling. And if you are comparing yourself to that, or amazing makeup, you're comparing yourself to that, and not even the model looks like that. We hear it, but do you really, do you hear it?
Yeah.
It's a lie or perception.
Well. Yeah.
Say that for me again, darling.
I've struggled with this all my life, actually. You know, judging my body. Because when I grew up, like my mom was like constantly in front of a mirror, like squishing her fatty bits and looking at her like bum, like how fat she is, and she wasn't. She has, even now in her, like, she's nearly 60, and she's an amazing body, body. It's just all in her mind. And you know what? I picked that up, and I was skinny as anything. I was always like, right now, until 10 kilos more than I used to be. I was always like around 50 kilos, and I'm like really tall. So I'm like super skinny, right? And I always thought that I was fat. Because, you know, that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Yeah, insane. Totally insane. And yeah, I mean, you know, all these types of things, these perceptions of beauty, perceptions of success, perceptions of what you should have in a relationship, all of these things are being taught to us. But what is really your truth? You know, just be you. Who are you? Not what you've been taught. Not what you've been, you know, that's what's acceptable. Like, who are you really? And so a lot of our behaviors have been built on keeping that down to try and fit in. And so we don't even know who we are. Did you know? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Janet's saying about her nan would say, you know, you basically look well if you put on weight. Yeah, you're well fed, basically. You know, if you think about different generations, yes, World War II, when there were food rationing, it was even more key. Absolutely. And we might have lost the Sabina, so hopefully you can still see me. But yeah, it was a really key thing that the more food you had, or even obviously times of kings, gout was an illness of the wealthy, because it's about having ability to have access to lots of meat and fats. I'm just saying about, you know, how different timelines have projected what it means to be in good health. So in the time of, you know, medieval kings and queens, gout was an illness of the rich and wealthy. Aristocracy, because it's lots of meat and lots of alcohol and lots of fats, you know, really hard on the body, but that was deemed healthy. So yeah, and then we've gone to the other extreme: the skinnier you are, the healthier you are. And it's just like, actually, What what would you like if you weren't eating because you thought you should look a certain way? If you weren't eating to push down how you're feeling because you're not being able to express who you are, if you weren't eating just to fit in, how different might that be?
Mm.
Like beginning to explore and find out who you are, it's a lifetime's journey. It really is. But also, when you start to realize how much we've agreed and bought into ideas, it's very easy to be pulled around with whatever's going on in the world because if that's the narrative, then we can be led anywhere, and therefore anything that happens in the outside world, it shakes off our center. But if you start to explore, well, who am I? What's really true for me? Not what I've been taught, and there are many paths through this. Um, then it starts to mean there's a bit of space between you and what's going on, what's in the paper, what's on your phone beeping, what's on social media, what your neighbour says, what your company announces, what the political world stage announces.
Who am I? That's really great. Actually, I have been working on it for, well, you have been working on it as well for many years, and I feel like now I'm definitely most myself, and I'm unashamedly myself as well. I still have low points when I get like, oh my god, but like if I show all my crazy, people will judge me. But like mostly, I show all my crazy, and I love it.
Your uniqueness, which others would call crazy because it doesn't fit into that vanilla box, which we're generally taught to fit into.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which we can kind of have access to when we're little because it's, oh, you're kids, that's normal. Why is it no longer normal when we get a little bit older? Yeah, but that's what being an adult is. It's shutting, squashing those edges, those unique, slightly wild bits down. Because otherwise you're, well, eccentric, weird, make people feel
Oh, I was
uncomfortable.
called that as well. Eccentric by my family. It cracks me up now. I'm like, yeah, I take it as a compliment, really.
Yeah, because you were different to how they were choosing to see the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And it's not that they're right and Sabina's wrong, or Sabina's right and they're wrong. It just shows you how much we're all kind of like, there's a general path we're led down within our cultures or within our social class or whatever you want to call that. There's certain ways that are acceptable and others that aren't. But if you've not noticed, with the 8 billion people on the planet, or however many there may be, I haven't counted recently, but even just your street, most of us look different. We sound different, even smell different if you get close enough. Right, and so I guess maybe there's something in that there's a uniqueness. Even twins that are so-called identical are different.
Mm.
Maybe nature knows something. Maybe there's a madness to that difference. That maybe we're not all meant to be cookie cutter, and none of us really want to be that. If we're really honest with ourselves, even if we're trying to fit in varying degrees, in our heart of hearts, in our gut, or even in our brain, there's a niggle. There's a niggle bit that wants to come out. There's a bit of us that wants to come out, or a bit more of us that wants to come out. That thinks we're like, oh no, keep it under wraps. And as we start to uncloak ourselves, more of that shows, and we learn that it's a sense of freedom. There's more space to breathe, but also it starts to get other people sort of inspired. But also, there's an invitation for others to start to do it, to see that it's okay, it can be done. Doesn't mean everybody's going to like it. People, particularly family and friends, can push back at you when you start to open up and start to do things as in just be you. Because they related to you in a certain fixed way. Now you've changed your shape, it doesn't fit the same. Yeah. So,
and as well, like imagine like how exhausting it is to pretending to be something that you're not.
or squashing yourself into a shape that you're not.
Yeah. Instead of just being like exactly as you are, relaxed in your own skin, in your own like yourself.
Yeah.
It's
And it doesn't
like,
mean you don't consider others.
yeah.
but you are another too. So you don't shut you down. Sometimes it's like a baby, isn't it? We give them soft, mushy stuff in the beginning because that's what they can digest, or milk and then mushed up food. And eventually they'll get to some solid, generally. We don't deny that there's solids, so we give them something, but it's still in the context of what we think is going to be a contribution to them.
Hmm.
We don't stop eating the other things ourselves, so it's still like Sabrina's done today, taking care of herself an extra bit of time today. Like we start to be more of ourselves, and we let others. It gives others permission.
Hmm.
Children watch us; they mimic us all the time. Others are always watching us.
Be the change you'd like to see in the world.
Classic adage, Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah, but really, it really is, and it's such a flippant statement or phrase that's used. It's like actually, it's true.
It is.
Does anybody want to be attacked, judged, made wrong, put down? No one. I don't believe anybody wants that. So I don't believe if I'm wrong. Hey, cool, interesting point of view. That I have that point of view. My sense is that no one actually wants that. So if we're doing that, often if we do that to people, it's often because we're trying to guard something in ourselves. It's the only behaviour pattern we know. So actually, the hardest thing is actually starting to be kind to ourselves for most people, even if they manage to do it a little bit to somebody else.
Oh my gosh, then also I've been actually teaching in the last week's class, how it starts with you, within the seed of compassion. That's all about cultivating kindness and compassion towards yourself and love, and how you need to do that first. And it's not selfish at all, because to be there for others efficiently, and you need to be, healthy and vibrant and balance yourself and happy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't have that energy to give to others. So you come first,
Absolutely.
and it's not selfish at all.
Absolutely.
Then you can be there for others better,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all know this. If we've had a good night's sleep, we've had lots of sunshine, or had a nice time away, we're so much more open. Somebody asks us something, we're much more, yeah, of course, or oh yeah, I'll look into that. Or if we're cranky, running late, we've decided we're going to miss out on something and we're worried about it, and somebody asks us, does that the same thing? Most people will go, oh no, I can't help. No, I haven't got time. Just notice your own behaviors. Note you're the same person, but what's driving your reaction versus a response?
Like people always say, oh, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for self-care. I don't have time. Well, that's the time when you have to find the most, when you need it the most, actually. When you feel that overwhelmed, when you feel like, oh, I don't have time for anything. Well, it's necessary to your survival that you make the time, even if you just start with 5 minutes every day and build up on it. That's what I do tend to overgive. And I love myself for it, but I have to put in place these self-care things to
appointments.
So I don't get to that overwhelm.
Yeah.
So now I've scheduled every 6 weeks. I am taking a week off.
Wow.
When I work, self-employed, and when I work, I most of the time work weekends as well, and you have like a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, maybe one day in a week. Free, but it's not the same as having a few days off when you can completely switch off and don't even look at emails and stuff. So I decided to take every 6 weeks off and have a proper week off, maybe going somewhere, and actually completely relaxing. So I can work with people again, and I can give freely, and I can help people, and so I don't get into that. People are bothering me, because I do get into that every now and then. I may overgive, and when I don't take care of myself properly. So it's necessary.
Yeah, and and it's when I work with clients, I tend to find is that there's something they're working on. It could be, it's often relationships, right? Relationship with themselves or with others. It's always, they come to me thinking they want to change something in their workspace. Particularly, I've worked with everything from kids, the age of 6, through to executives for big banks, and it's all the same things. They want to change something, a problem, which might be how they're managing their workload, or how they're interacting with something with the work, or how they want to promote, sort of progress, or how they're doing in school with the grades, or how they're, how the parents are on their case for them to study. It could be a whole range of things, but fundamentally, the common denominator is them, and therefore giving them the tools to change how they perceive other people, how they handle other people's demands of them, how they express themselves to other people. That's the true power.
Mm.
And so the tools and skills I teach them mean they have to practice them throughout the day. Because if they don't use them, nothing changes. It's the same as Sabina saying, the self-care. It's a daily thing, you might take a chunk of time off every 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. But if it doesn't become a daily practice, that to take a bigger chunk of time off and really value yourself is not going to happen. You're not going to go from 0 to 100. So it's little nibbles. It's that 30 seconds looking out the window and going,
build up on it, right? Take a few deep breaths.
Small bits, small bits.
And as I'll say, I have to say, like, when I get into that stress mode, when I overgive and I'm like really like, oh, I don't have time for anything, blah blah blah, and get irritable with people, and I'm pushing, and like things are not happening. I'm not creative. You're putting that energy out there, and even business is not going great, And when I started like taking care of myself, taking more time for myself, having lots of fun and lovely things just happen, and I don't even need to try hard.
Counterintuitive, right? We've all been taught push, make things happen.
Honestly.
Which keeps you in the stress, anxiety state, by the way, particularly for women.
It so works like this. It's insane. Like, the more I started taking care of myself, more business opportunities started popping up. And like, clients from here, there, and I'm like, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
This is cool. Thank you, universe. This is how it works. You look after more and things happen. You don't even need to try hard.
Yeah. Here's a classic one. Let's take it down to what I call intimate relationships. We've got 2 or 3 minutes left, so we'll be wrapping up very soon. But just to build on Sabina's idea there, if you're out and you see a guy or girl, whatever your preference is, you see one that's kind of like tense and stressed and moving around like 100 miles an hour, little legs are going like the clappers to get somewhere. Does that feel like somebody you want to approach? Do you feel like they'd be receptive to you? And then you see somebody who's just walking along and they're just like really relaxed. They look like they're comfortable in their own body. Doesn't matter what they're wearing, there's a glow to them. There's a smile. There's a twinkle in their eyes. Which one is going to, be receptive to you, and which one are you do you want to go towards? You could go up to either, but which one would you want to go with? Which one would you want to hang out with and spend time with? So if you know that, if you get hit as to which one's the most obvious, are you being that? I'm not saying which one's right or wrong, good or bad, but are you being that? And some of the things we've shared today, and you can see our past chats on both True Drew Uxbridge, which is Sabina's page, or the Joyful Bodies official. You can see the past chats we've had, and also on the YouTube channel, which we'll post here by the Facebook Live that we're doing now. You can see some of those conversations where we started to touch on those things. Or obviously you can work with either of us, or any other thing, any other process or person. Pick up a book, whatever, go for a walk. But just start to notice which one's more attractive. So how can you start to be that in your life for you? Do you enjoy being you, for crying out loud? That's radical, isn't it?
It's magical.
Just be you. Just be you. So guys, wow, it's been kind of cool to get together because it's been a few weeks. So thank you for taking the time, Sabina.
Thank you for joining me. It was fun.
Yeah. And we hope that something in there has kind of turned on a little bit of a light bulb, inspired you somehow, giving you something to get your teeth into, just to prepare for the future, which I think is going to be fascinating, and in any normal day, let alone where we are in the world right now. So, and self-care is a big part of that.
Very big part. And you deserve it. You're worth it.
Only you can give it to you. All right, guys, we're going to sign off now just for the hour. Good seeing you. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Everyone, bye.